When did you get that?
So, probably about 2 months ago, I went to Marshalls, and I was like, this shirt is so ridiculous, I have to buy it. It was
send me a pic, he's like, I'm gonna get this.
It was
$8?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good purchase right there.
And it's Zara, so you know.
And it fits perfectly.
It doesn't. It's true, it's like double XL. Look how big this thing is. But it's so cool. This is what
it feels really good.
This is gonna wear. It's gonna be what I wear on my album cover when I drop my mixtape. It's gonna be dope. I need a gold chain too. I need a gold chain to match the gold chains on the actual shirt.
Is this how Andrew pictures your dad?
Probably. I need a convertible now, so I can ride along with my shirt unbuttoned.
with 2 women in the car.
Yep, but they're like in the back seat, sitting on top of the, on the back.
Course.
They're not actually in the seat. Driving down PCH or
getting hit with bugs in their face.
It's all right because we're gonna be going to the beach. They'll just jump in the water.
Beaches are closed.
That's the only problem with this whole story. The beaches are closed.
Well, this isn't gonna happen now. This is gonna be middle-aged, Kevin. I'm keeping this shirt forever.
You're there already.
No, that's you, Jay.
That's nice of you to call Jay just middle-aged.
Jay's got some jokes today, so I guess that's probably a pretty good segue to get into our list. Welcome to another episode of the NRDWave podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, and we got Bobby again as usual. Jay's with us as well. Old man Grandpa Jay. The last couple of weeks, we were really leaning into the theme of disasters and post-apocalyptic worlds based on the pandemic that's currently going on. So this week, we kind of wanted to lighten the mood a little bit, talk about some movies that'll make us laugh in this sort of dark time. So that being said, we're going to give our top 5 best comedies, favorite comedies of the last 10 years, basically, from 2010 to 2019. So yeah, let's see if we can get some laughs. How about you start, Bobby? What's your number 5?
Let's see. I went with I don't even know if you guys have seen this one, but it's a movie that didn't get a lot of praise. I ended up seeing it on Netflix, not in theaters or anything like that. I picked Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's a great movie. It's a spoof on like the traditional like cabin in the woods, like the young kids going out there with a serial killer. Basically, it's these 2 hicks that buy a cabin, and they're total hicks, and like all the cliche scenes happen. Like they see these college kids at a gas station and like totally make them look like serial killers, and it's just like one of the guys just wants to talk to the cute college girls, and he has no idea how. And so like there's just like so many misunderstandings whenever like the college kids see the Tucker and Dale. And throughout the course of the movie, you have like weird stuff happening where they think that they're serial killers, and the college kids accidentally keep committing suicide in the most gruesome ways. Like one kid, there's like a bunch of bees, and so I think it was Tucker, or I don't remember which, but Alan Tudyk's character, he's running side by side with one of the college kids away from the bees, and then the college kid runs directly into a wood chipper face first. Wow. And it's just like the most gruesome but hilarious deaths because it's like all these things keep happening, and Tucker and Dale actually think that it's a ritual suicide thing that these college kids are doing, and just all the misunderstandings and like playing off the cliches in a normal horror movie make this movie an incredibly fun watch.
So it's like The Happening, except also funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly like that.
Well, it's funny too because Tucker and Dale, they even try to save some of the kids, and then they still end up accidentally dying.
Do they ever accidentally cause a death? Because I've never actually seen it.
No, none of them are actually their fault.
They're completely innocent the whole time.
Like there's this one scene where a guy gets one of the college kids gets a hold of a gun, and he's like, "Oh, I think your safety's on." As the college kid's pointing at him, and then he turns it to his face and shoots himself in the face.
So that's what I mean. They kind of caused that person's death.
No, they didn't. Why would you
inadvertently?
Why would you look at a gun next to your safety?
Well, I know, but they're like, hey. So
safety.
basically, a direct input from the characters caused the
like
death.
A butterfly effect type thing.
Yeah.
I could see that, but it's like if you say a safety's on, who's going to point the gun at their own face?
Mm-hmm.
Is that where the safety is?
True. Yeah, I've never actually seen this one. I've heard it's good. Just never, that one just got away from me. So never had a chance to see it.
I would highly recommend it. It's like it's like I said, it's Alan Tudyk, who is just amazing in everything I've ever seen him in, And then the other guy is Tyler Labine, who has been in like I guess he was in Flyboys and a couple other things, but he's not very well known at all.
Mm.
It's a very small or like not well known cast, but I think that's what makes it so good.
Right.
Yeah, it was almost an independent movie kind of.
It has that vibe.
Yeah,
It
did
was
it
straight
actually
to-
have? I was gonna say, what did it have a theatrical release?
No, I think it was like either straight to streaming or straight to video, DVD or Blu-ray.
Oh,
when
yeah.
it was- you know.
Okay. What about you, Jay? What's your number 5?
Number 5 is Horrible Bosses. I think this was an instant classic the moment it came out. I just remember how much fun this movie was. Sequels, okay, it's not as great. I think what makes this movie so great is the cast. You got Charlie Day. I think he's just the icing on the cake, the cherry on top. Everything he does is funny. So it's like a group of 3 guys that really hate their jobs, hate their bosses, and then they end up trying to figure out a way to pretty much get rid of their bosses by murdering them, and just the plot just goes kind of wild with their theories and their scams and their schemes to kill their bosses. And it's a good it's always a good watch. You got Jason Bateman, Charlie Day, what's his face,
Jason Sudeikis.
Jason Sudeikis. You got both the Jasons.
And Jamie Foxx.
and
Motherfucking
then-
Jones.
Yeah,
Great
he's
character.
great too. And then you got the name we shall not mention apparently now because he's the bad man.
This is
Jennifer Aniston,
honestly why I didn't put this movie on my list.
because of the hashtag Me Too.
Was because of Jennifer Aniston. No, just kidding.
Threw me a
But
curveball there.
I think the best boss is Colin Farrell when he plays
Oh my
the
God.
balding like
Oh yeah,
The balding
punk
fat
food
dude.
guy, like, addicted to coke.
yeah. He was playing against type for sure.
Yeah, I think he did a great job. And then Jennifer Aniston's the nymphomaniac that just wants Charlie Day all the time. And
That's rape. This is a rape.
yeah, that's right. And just and then you get a lot. Well, I mean, at the time, I was kind of, we're gonna bend you over the barrel and show you 50
Shade of
States.
50
Is that a
States,
saying?
yeah.
And then that was pretty popular
It is
for
now.
like a while,
Yeah.
and then it's gone now. But
That's not something. Yeah, it's in a movie. Which one? This one.
it is now.
Yeah, this movie. When I saw the trailers for it, I was like, okay, it looks okay, but I'm gonna see almost anything that Jason Bateman's in.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of his, and he does really well in this role because Charlie Day is obviously the crazy one. Sudeikis,
Little jabs, such little jabs.
yeah, yeah, and Sudeikis is kind of like,
He's the charming ladies, man.
yeah, and he kind of like the way that he acts. He kind of like, but he walks the line of being annoying because like Charlie Day can get annoying. I think he's hilarious, but his voice can get a little bit crazy. It's like just calm down a little bit the way he acts, he delivers lines. But Jason Bateman is always a straight guy for the most part,
Yeah,
and just like he's the best in the business at doing that type of role. So and he nails it as usual with this
Yeah.
movie. So great choice.
it's weird because the way his mannerisms work for serious and funny together at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching Ozarks right now, and it's like he talks exactly the same, inflections are exactly the same. Even though he's not being funny, it's like I don't know, how does he tell the
But-
difference?
Well, his comedy is really good because he's mostly sarcastic. Like that's his
Yeah.
style of comedy. So like even if he's delivering a line seriously, it can sound funny because you're like, is he being sarcastic? All right, so that brings me to my number 5. Actually, I have, and Bobby talked about this before we started recording. I have The Disaster Artist at number 5, and I think this movie is incredibly funny. It is a little bit more than just a straight comedy, but I think the fact that James Franco is essentially Tommy Wiseau. He plays the role
Oh, it was
like
incredible.
he's like a clone of bringing back to clones. He's a clone of Tommy Wiseau. He's great, and just like not only is the movie really funny because you're seeing like some background information on how they made that movie, The Room, by the way, which is a cult hit. You get to see a little bit more on the human side of Tommy Wiseau because he is essentially a meme. And so this humanizes him a bit, and you feel sorry for like all the jokes that people have made about him and all that stuff. On top of that, great cast: James Franco, his brother Dave Franco, Seth Rogen is in it a little bit as like a bit character. You got Josh Hutcherson, who's like hilarious. He plays
Danny.
such a
As
funny
Danny.
character as Denny.
Denny.
Yeah. Which
The actor that plays Denny.
if you haven't seen this movie, and you have seen The Room. What are you waiting for? It's great. It provides a lot of insight into the making of that film.
Who's the guy from Baywatch that was also in it? He played the mugger.
It was
High School Musical.
Zac Efron.
Zac Efron, he played the mugger. It was
Yeah.
just so funny to see him in that role.
Mhm.
Wasn't he Zac Efron? No, he wasn't.
It's a really good movie, and like Bobby was saying, there's a lot of deep moments, but I think the comedy is just it's the main point of the movie is going to laugh.
The reason it works is because the source is so hilarious. And,
Yeah.
it's not unintentionally hilarious, but it turns out to be.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they had such great source material to go off of. It's almost impossible. I mean, they did a great job, but it's almost impossible for it not to be funny.
Yeah, very true. And it's kind of interesting too that the success of this movie really does hinge on the fact that The Room is so popular, the original movie, because nobody would give a crap if that movie didn't exist, or if that movie wasn't popular. So it's kind of funny how that works. So I think that's why a lot of the acting and the storytelling really does a good job of humanizing Tommy Wiseau, because I think that James Franco realizes that that movie wouldn't exist without the original. So
yeah, and it's awesome
nice
that Tommy Wiseau gave his blessing on it too and was a part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Part of me thinks that Wiseau. I mean, I'm like 90% sure that he just enjoys being a meme anyways, because it means.
I mean, he
he's
wanted
popular.
to be famous.
He's got to be making money at this point. So I mean,
yeah.
How old is he now? He's like 25.
Probably.
Tommy Wiseau.
Probably.
He's from Louisiana.
I'm in high school. I'm high school age.
Yeah, that guy's background is, man, it'd be awesome to get some sort of biography, like a real biography about the dude, because nobody knows where the hell he's from.
He's obviously from Eastern Europe, but
yeah. But then how'd he make his money and all that? It's crazy.
yeah,
It's
I don't
really
know.
weird.
His family probably. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. Who wants to take number 4?
All right, I got another one here. So this one, I'm taking it, man. I'll take it. So this one, it's, I don't know, because it's one of those movies that's probably like so bad that it's so good. I picked MacGruber for this one. This movie is just full of laugh out loud moments because it's so stupid in the way that it's executed. It's just, you can't help but laugh.
I'm disappointed in you, Bobby.
I mean, this is a movie. It's probably rated like a 30 or a 40 on Rotten Tomatoes. I haven't checked, but I think it's got to be pretty low.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's just such a fun watch. Like, you have Will Forte. Like, okay, so MacGruber, it's from the SNL skits spoofing MacGyver, where like he uses whatever he can to make an object to save them in any given moment. But then in the skits, the bomb always goes off before he can actually save them. And like you get the same vibe in this movie where it's like everything he does just turns to shit. Like, he never does anything right, but he's got this aura around him, like where everybody thinks that he's a badass.
Yeah, he's got a
thinks that
reputation. He's got an unearned reputation about
Very
how
much
good he
so.
is, and you never get to see it. Well, there's a couple times where he kind of like
At
when he
the
does
end.
inadvertently
At the end.
works. No, there towards the middle of the movie, you see like when he's making the distraction. That works.
That's true. It does work.
It works for some reason. But yeah, his reputation is obviously bigger than his actual skill, which is what makes the characterization hilarious. And yeah, great choice. I love this movie.
So the cast, like, it's got Will Forte obviously from SNL, also Kristen Wiig from SNL. It's got Ryan Philippe, who's actually funnier than I ever thought he was. Like, I didn't think of him as a comedic actor in any way. And then you've got Val Kilmer playing the villain. Was it Victor Kunt?
Cunt.
And Victor Kunt. And he's just phenomenal as the villain. He's just so hammy, and just every scene he's in, he's just chewing the scenery.
Yeah, you could tell he was having a really good time making the movie.
Oh, I think everyone had a blast making that movie.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else could play this character besides Will Forte.
Yeah,
No.
he plays it to perfection.
Yeah.
Just that terrible getup. Obviously, it's just MacGyver, but like.
Well, he's
it's just
MacGyver's
so bad.
bastard son. That's what he's supposed to be.
Yeah. I wish that Will Forte would be in more movies and shows and stuff. Last Man on Earth, he was great, and I'm so sad that show got canceled.
Yeah.
But he really got to shine in it. But yeah, this is a good movie. I've seen it 10 times, maybe more, and I laugh every time. It's still really, really funny. So great choice.
Did that get you guys hooked on this movie? Like,
I think you probably showed it to us, or me at least first.
I was the first to see it, or I was the first to mention that I saw it to the group, and then Bobby watched it after that, and then eventually we all watched it together. But I remember
God,
Bobby. I
it's so
told Bobby
funny.
about it because I was watching it on Comedy Central, and I was like, "Bobby, you got to watch this movie. It's so stupid and hilarious." And then like took him years to finally watch it, as usual.
It always does.
You probably mentioned to him, and then you probably realized how much I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, something like that. I remember we
So-
watched it when you guys were all living together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
The best scene in the movie, though, and it's like anytime I even think about this scene, I just cannot stop laughing. It's when he's putting together his team of badasses, and it's all WWF wrestlers. You got like Chris Jericho, you got Kane, you've got Mark Henry, and then like he's putting all these guys are doing these manly things. Then he gets to the Big Show. Obviously, this is a little bit
It's dated now.
it's dated now, but he gets to the Big Show, and the Big Show's like a mechanic, and he's like nodding along as he's like writing on his list. And then the Big Show, like somebody brings him a drink and then kisses him, and it's two guys kissing. And then you see him like with this weird look on his face, and you see him just start crossing the Big Show's name off the list.
Scribbling it out.
Yeah, you can't get away with that joke nowadays, but
No.
it's funny.
It's obviously so funny how stupid he is about it. And then later, as he's talking up this badass team that he built, he's like, "There's 80 years of experience in there, and I made all the explosives. I packed them all together." And then the van blows up with all of them inside.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Tug, guys."
And this is all within like the first 10 minutes of the movie. Like they already blow his reputation because up until that point he's like a badass, and it's great. It's such a good build up.
It's a perfect scene in my opinion.
Yeah, it's great. All right, Jay, what do you got for number 4?
Number 4 is This Is the End. We talked about this last week, or a couple weeks ago, or shows ago, I should say. Like I said, I think what makes this movie is like we talked about last time, is the cast. They're each playing, obviously a caricature of themselves, and the self-deprecation in the movie is just great. The chemistry between all these guys, obviously they all worked before, in Apatow movies and other things. Freaks and Geeks, obviously that's still Apatow, but just the chemistry between all these guys and all the cameos in this movie just make it so hilarious. It's obviously it's the rapture, which it's not completely biblical the way they portray it, but it's just hilarious. Like they think, I'll preach. Amen. Let us pray. And it's just hilarious. Like I said, it's just almost it's outlandish and outrageous. Just the different demons and stuff like that. And the giant demon at the end with the god beam coming down.
Oh yeah.
His big
Cuts his wiener
swinging
off.
cock like Dr. Manhattan.
It's just
They-
stuff like that.
They did a bris.
Yeah.
To add a
It was a little more than
more
a
religious angle.
Yeah,
I
and
put
the fact that I think it was James Franco was about to get saved, and he's like starts flipping him off, and like nope, and then
Fuck
turns
you,
the god beam off.
McBride.
that's a great scene.
Yeah,
Yeah, I almost put this on my list, but since I had it on the disaster movie list, I decided to leave it off because Bobby and I, because we both had it on that list.
yeah.
Bobby and I
I
talked about
thought-
it a lot, so I decided not to. It's actually on my list. I have a short list of honorable mentions. I had to put it on there because it's a hilarious movie, and I personally think if I would have put it on my list, it probably would have been number 1. I think it is the funniest movie of the last 10 years. So that's a great choice. I
It would have been
love it.
my number 3, I think, if I were to have put it on. But I also left it off because I talked about it so recently.
Yeah, and we gave it such high praise, a couple weeks ago too.
Yeah.
So Jay, you got away with this one. Next time, put it on your disaster movie list.
Yeah. Next disaster movie list we do, Jay. You better add that.
The next global pandemic, we'll do a revisit. Jeez, that's so grim.
They're gonna
All
be
right.
coming like once a year now.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
What happens in 2021? There's 2 pandemics. Or 2.
It's gonna be the random chimp event. All right, so my number 4. This is one of the movies that I thought wasn't a pure comedy, but it's just so good that I had to put it on here. And I have Deadpool. So
Oh.
obviously, comic book genre, that's kind of the main category it falls under. But it's so good and it's so funny, and not only that, the fact that it's under the guise of a comic book film, and was rated R, and was still so funny and different. We had never seen anything like this, especially out of Fox, because the X-Men movies aren't that funny. The Fantastic Four movies are funny in a different way. So this was just like a breath of fresh air, and Ryan Reynolds, you could tell, really loves the role, loves the character, fought to make this movie happen, and it really shows. And lots of really cool stuff. Breaking the fourth wall was always nice to see. The physical comedy of like him having his hand cut off and it growing back and like this little baby hand was so hilarious. And they went above and beyond on what, in my opinion, on what they could show in a comic book movie. Hilarious. It feels very innovative in the way that it was made and the way that it was portrayed on film. So love this movie. Like I said, not really a pure comedy, but it is just so over the top funny. Had to put it on my list.
It didn't occur to me, but I could definitely see that as a very good choice here. That's like, I laughed so much watching that movie. Like I'll watch it today and I'll still laugh a lot. That's a very good choice there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this one didn't make my list. It was up there, and aside with some of my other choices. I think what came down to me for was watchability. I think I enjoy watching these other ones like over and over again. And think Deadpool. It's kind of like I think I have to be in the mood for Deadpool, but I still love it, and it's a great, hilarious movie. Yeah. And Ryan Reynolds. I mean, obviously he's Ryan Reynolds. You couldn't ask for more.
Yeah.
He's really good in everything.
And Gina Carano, so I mean,
she was
Jay loves Gina Carano.
Superhero Landing, and it's not only that, it's a really good looking movie too in terms of its special effects and all that. So I think that it's incredibly well rounded. Has the comedy, has the action, and then not only that, a connection to something that's very near and dear to me, which is comic books. So it's an all rounder for sure. Love this movie.
Yeah.
Any complaints?
I have no.
That's a stupid choice. That's a stupid choice, and I didn't want to say it, but you forced my hand.
Jerry. Turns into Springer. That'll get some
No.
views.
You are not the father.
That's Maury.
Oh yeah.
Oh no. Oh, okay. So moving on to number 3, I picked a movie. I think you guys think that I overrate this movie, but I picked The Other Guys.
Don't put words in our mouth.
I think it's a direct quote from like a year ago. The Other Guys, it stars Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. Like I've never seen like Mark Wahlberg better than this as far as comedy. Like he's just
The Happening.
The Happening.
His comedic delivery is fantastic.
Intentionally funny.
What?
Intentionally funny.
No.
Unintentionally funny. Yes, that's his best comedy. But in this movie, Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, like their chemistry as like two people who don't want, well, at least one of them who doesn't want to be partners. Like they clash, just like the typical like buddy cop thing. But it's like they're just so good together. And then you have the relationship with Will Ferrell and his wife, played by Ava Mendes, where he like talks about her like he basically calls her a hobo at one point. And then you see her in like this nice dress, and it's Ava Mendes, so she's incredible looking. Yeah. And then she's like a doctor, and like she like makes this like incredible like 4-course meal, and just like all that, like she's just like incredible.
The perfect woman.
And the entire time he's just downplaying her.
Yeah,
that's what I think. That's what. Yeah, that was just hilarious. That he just always like he's dissing her, and he's like, "You look terrible, Sheila," and he's like, "How dare you bring this in to me? How dare this? This is disgusting. This food is horrible.
You should change that dress."
Yeah. He calls her my plain wife.
Yeah,
like he's Amish.
I'm gonna get a lot of guff for this. I don't particularly love this movie. This and Step Brothers, I get a lot of hate for not really liking that much. I think it's moderately funny. It's not horrible, but if for whatever reason it just didn't work. I don't like Mark Wahlberg's comedy voice that he always does, where he's like, "Come on, guys, we're gonna do this," and blah blah blah, and it's like
you gotta let him fly. He's a peacock.
It gets exhausting after a while, and I think Will Ferrell is like playing it. He's playing a caricature of himself, of his old films in this. It's not. It isn't as clever as some of the older stuff that he did, like Anchorman or Talladega Nights and that kind of thing. But one scene that is incredibly funny, and I laughed very loud and very hard, was when they're doing like the sexy talk, and Will Ferrell's giving messages to her mother,
grandmother,
and relaying it to her, and it gets like super
like,
explicit.
I don't feel comfortable saying it.
Yeah, it gets super
the things
explicit.
you kids do nowadays.
It's way over the top. That scene is legitimately funny, but a lot of the other stuff, it's like it's an okay movie. Steve Coogan is pretty good in it.
I think he plays his role well in that one. He's a nice, funny supporting character.
Yeah, I like him as an actor too. And I like Mark Wahlberg a lot and Will Ferrell a lot. It's just that for whatever reason this movie it didn't work for me, and I'm not really sure why. It's more of an emotional response, I think.
Well, I think for me, Will Ferrell, like he plays like a toned down version of the characters that you already mentioned, which I think makes him more relatable. Like, so he could be a real life person.
See, I feel the opposite because, and I don't want to really make this a debate because we're going to be keep an eye out on the channel for the next couple of weeks. We're going to be launching a debate show, most likely this coming Monday. But anyways. I disagree because his outlandishness in the setting that is created, which is supposed to be like sort of realistic, sort of makes him seem less realistic. You know what I mean? So like Anchorman, obviously that's a world setup that doesn't really exist. But this movie, where it's like a cop movie, they're investigating supposedly a real crime and that kind of stuff, takes him out of realism. You know what I mean? Like him, he may be a toned down version of Ron Burgundy, but he's still a very high-tuned real life cop, real life person.
He's still a cartoon character, obviously.
Yeah, he's in a real life setting.
He's a former pimp.
The pimp part definitely is definitely extreme, but everything else he does is just he's like a mild-mannered dude, and I think it actually works. Like I said, the partnership between him and Mark Wahlberg, like their partnership, like they kind of meld together, and it works really well. But I mean, it's not even just them. It's like you have the start of this movie. You have Samuel L. Jackson and The Rock as like the it cops, like who are the popular guys who are like it's like you'd think the movie would be about them. Like that's how they hook you into the movie. And then you have The Rock and Sam Jackson on the top of a building chasing these bank robbers.
Spoiler
and then
alert.
then they get away like to another building, and then they look at each other like aim for the bushes, and then they jump. You think of what I'm thinking? Aim for the bushes. They jump off, and There Goes My Hero starts playing, and it's in slow motion. And it's like, oh shit! Like, what are they going to make it? And they just slam into the ground.
There's no bushes in sight.
yeah, they just hit the pavement. Yeah, we got to move on, but real quick, I did want to say Michael Keaton is also very good in this
Don't
movie.
go chasing water.
Can I mention one thing
Great
real quick?
lines, sure.
Is we get them and in Daddy's Home movies, both of them. It's almost the exact same chemistry, almost the exact same characters, and those movies fall short. Yeah, but those movies fall short.
I will agree
completely.
that this movie is better than Daddy's Home.
I will agree too, but it just shows like it's like a flash in the pan almost for these two guys.
As long as it works one time, that's all it needs.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Jay? What's your
number three is Pop Star Never Stop Stopping, a Lonely Island movie. I love this movie.
This is actually perfect. One of the rare ones where I also have Pop Star at number 3. So that's great. I love when this happens. We should have some sort of sound effect when we get the same. Yeah. Maybe we have like a less impressive one when we have the same movie on our list at all, but a really crazy one when it's the same spot.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Jay.
Like some foghorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We'll just do it. We'll just do it with our mouths whenever we notice.
Yeah. I love this movie. It's great. I can watch this movie over and over again. I don't know. I love it's like a mockumentary, kind of like a fake documentary. You're following Connor for real. He's a former style boy. As a former boy group, a three-way. I guess not really a boy group, but like a hip hop kind of like almost like Beastie Boys kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
So it's like a spoof on the Beastie Boys. And just you get all these big names and all these cameos in this movie. The songs are hilarious because obviously I don't know if anyone's listened to Lonely Island, but their songs are outlandish and just completely crude. And everyone just does such a great job in this movie.
Yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah, it's just so he's a style boy. He's gone solo. His career is kind of flopping, and then even like just some of the stuff he does to try to get his career back up. When they make what's his name, his DJ wear that helmet, like he's like Daft Punk kind of thing.
Or Dead Mouse.
Dead Mouse. Yeah, and it's the beam like just shoots up the top, and it goes, burn. It's like this huge boat horn. It's just, everything about this movie is funny. Especially when I don't know why I crack up so hard when he's in the limo and the guy puts his junk on the window.
Yeah. It's like this. It was a pair of tits first, and it's like this is what this is all about.
And he's signing
and
it.
He signs it.
And then he rolls the window up, and it's just like screeching on the thing as it's going up.
Yeah. This movie's so good. I love that.
Outlandish.
I love the whole style of it being like, because there was a trend for a while. Like Justin Bieber had one, Katy Perry had one, Taylor Swift just released one of like these artists who are putting out documentaries. So it felt very much like that, and they were making fun of the whole idea of it. And just like Andy Samberg, I love that guy so much. I've been a fan of him forever. Love The Lonely Island. He's great on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and it was just really cool seeing, like, because I've been a fan of Lonely Island for a decade or whenever their first album came out. Yeah. And then this was almost like their albums coming alive on screen, and I hope that they do more with that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just it's an obvious spoof on Justin Bieber as a character. Connor Friel is basically Justin Bieber, and like they make him so stupid. Like he's just an idiot, and it's like he's super vapid, and it's kind of funny that it's like a commentary on like celebrity
pop stars,
celebrity life and all that stuff, and how out of touch they are. And he, in the story, spoiler alert, comes to a brutal awakening on, you know, what happens when you're not a star anymore, and then like this whole redemption and, you know, learning about friendship and really keeping the people that are important to you close. So there is a message in this really ridiculous movie. But the comedy is just so funny.
With the music awards with Michael Bolton and everyone playing. You got Usher dancing, and you got Justin Bieber as the fish, Mr. Fish.
No, it's Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake. I mean, sorry. The good Justin. Every time that starts, I don't know why, it's kind of silly, but I get goosebumps. I'm so excited to see that whole scene the whole time.
It is very like grand. It's grandiose.
Yeah,
it comes on, you're really like, oh, because you feel like even though he's not a very good person in the movie, you like still kind of grow to like him, and then he ends up like learning from his mistakes. So then when he gets that redemption, you're like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, and what's cool about it too is you got all the cameos. You got like Steven Tyler and all these amazing musicians in there, and they're just singing along and doing the donkey roll.
The donkey roll is so good. Karate Guy, such a good song. Bin Laden, fantastic. Mona Lisa's hilarious.
There's so many great songs on that album.
The best part is the catchphrase verse. That's doink the doink. DJ Tanner.
Sorry, Dad.
Dinky nuts. So good. But great movie. Bobby, do you have any comments on that one? I feel like you miss this one?
We've obviously seen it together. I had it on my. It's an honorable mention for me. You weren't there. I was with my real friends. It's an honorable mention for me. I just feel like there's too many movies that I liked better, but I still really like Popstar. Just so many funny people. Like I love like Justin Timberlake's character. Like he's like the cook, and like there's one scene where he's like watching him eat his food, and he's like hiding. And he's like really excited to see like if he likes it or not. Something about it is just so funny.
Yeah, a lot of great characters. I wish this movie was streaming somewhere, because I'd love to. I'd watch it right now. Just cut the episode short. Sorry, guys, gotta go. I gotta watch Popstar. Continue without me. All right,
so are we on number 2 now?
Number two. Mm-hmm. So you want to take it away, Jay, or do you?
I'll go number 2. Okay. I'll go with it. My number 2 is I don't know. It started out as a kind of obscure film. I don't think a lot of people saw it originally when it first came out. I think it's built up more of an audience now, like a cult following. But it's What We Do in the Shadows.
Knew it.
This movie is just hilarious. It's another mockumentary about a group of vampires living in New Zealand, and they get a documentary crew to follow them around and record their life and just the interactions between the 3 of them. They're all, probably a couple hundred years apart, from different cultures. Just the accents. Jermaine Clement, I think, is his name.
Yeah.
Taika Waititi is one of them. Can't remember the other guy's name, but they're all just amazing. And just they talk about all the cliche vampire things too, but they make it hilarious. Like, if you're gonna have a victim over, put towels or newspaper down on the couch, so you don't get blood all over it. And then they're all roommates in this one house, and so like the dishes are overdone, and it's been this one guy's job to do the dishes. It's been his turn to do dishes for like a decade, and he hadn't touched them. There's just blood all over him. They're just piled up. It's just a great movie. And then you got the scene with the werewolves, and how they have the conflict between the werewolves, like rivals.
We're werewolves, not swearwolves.
Yeah, and it's just you recognize a lot of the actors. I can't remember a lot of their names, but you'd recognize them. They're in a lot of different things. And this is great. Something that makes it so good, I think, is the accent. Makes it funnier. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's really dry humor at the same time. So I think that's probably why I didn't catch on like so fast. But I could watch this over and over again.
Now they've got the show on FX.
Yeah, and the show's just as good. The show's great.
So it's definitely gotten a much bigger following than when it first came out.
Yeah, and I am ashamed to say I've never seen it. So
got away from you, huh?
Yep, got away from me. Reese Darby though is one of the other.
That's the other one.
And he's hilarious. I actually really like his.
He's
stand-up.
one of the werewolves.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, he's the guy. We're werewolves, not swearwolves. He's like the leader of the pack.
I really want to see it. When the show came out, I was like, oh, I want to watch this, but I hadn't seen the movie and I didn't know if I should have beforehand. So I just kind of put it off, and so here we are. But I've always heard such good things about it, and it's got a really big cult following now. So I should probably get on board.
It's funny. There's this, Jay alluded to it, like putting down like towels, like when they bring somebody to like suck their blood. So he brings over a girl for like she thinks it's a date, and like I think if I remember, he's putting like paper towels like on her, like kind of like a bib, and then
on
like
him.
Oh, on him. Okay, so he goes to take a bite, and like he hits a vein, and blood just starts going everywhere.
Like
all in
the
living
bib just
room.
Didn't matter, and it wouldn't have mattered.
Like he hit the jugular, and it's just spraying, arterial splatter and spray everywhere, uncontrollable.
Like you don't expect a scene like that to be hilarious, but it was one of the funniest scenes in the entire movie.
Nice.
Oh man.
Yeah, cool. I'll have to pick that one up. All right, Bobby, what's your number 2?
All right, this one I didn't expect this one to be good at all. Like I saw like previews for it. I was like, whatever. Then I finally watched it. Spy with Melissa McCarthy and.
I also have Spy at number 2. Wow, twice in one episode. Jeez.
Oh man, 2 in a row for Kevin.
That's a first.
That is a first, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, as you know, it's like I think it's Melissa McCarthy's best performance.
Oh, for sure.
Some people will say Bridesmaids because she was a ringer in that one. I feel like, but
she's the best character in Bridesmaids. But
for sure.
Oh sure.
I don't think it's her best performance.
Could be either way, but I would pick this. But it's like you got Melissa McCarthy, you've got Rose Byrne who plays a really funny like stuck up villain.
Oh my god, that scene in the airplane when she was like. She says something. I can't remember what she says, but then
she says that's the
like,
stupidest fucking.
Are you fucking retarded?
That's the stupidest fucking toast.
It's the stupidest fucking toast I've ever heard.
Oh yeah, that's one. Yeah, that's so good.
The great things about this movie, it's like they're really spoofing on like a Bond movie, like where the guy from Mad TV, Michael McDonald, I think, like he plays Q. Mm-hmm. And like he's giving like these things that'll help save her life, but it's like disguised as like hemorrhoid cream.
Yeah.
And they make her like they give her like the worst identity ever. Like she loves cats. Yeah. Just like the worst possible things that the most embarrassing stuff. Like she drinks some champagne on the plane and then like she realizes that she's being drugged, so she goes to try and get her like her drugs to save herself. And she's like, when she wakes up, Rose Byrne's like, yeah, you dove for your hemorrhoid cream.
Yeah. And I love how she's like making fun of her like head of security, Rose Byrne's head of security, the Swedish guy, and just like calling him a baby and stuff, and he's like, I'm not a baby, and like just totally like
you're gonna cry.
Just falls for it. She's playing this act as like being a security expert, and but this is her first time in the field, so that's what adds to the comedy. Is she's like totally winging it. It's really fun. But one of the standout things about this movie is Jason Statham's character.
Yes.
Hilarious, and this is so out of type for Jason Statham
of the movie for sure.
His like him just exaggerating his experience in the field and all this stuff, and you don't know what's real and what's not, but like you want to believe him because he's so sure of himself. Yeah. But the whole scene where he's talking about like being in a poison ring for like rich people that
underground poison ring.
Yeah, where rich people bet on whether a poison will kill them, and he's immune to all like 55 poisons on Earth or whatever. Like super funny, super good stuff.
I love the end when he's driving off on the boat and he's like, I'm going to head somewhere. And then, like, does he know this is a lake? And he's like, can't find the way out.
But that one scene you're talking about with what was his name from Mad TV, the whole Q thing.
Michael McDonald,
totally reminds me of another spy spoof movie, I Spy, where Owen Wilson's getting all of his equipment and it all sucks. Like, it just sucks, and like the better spies are getting like the higher priority equipment that's way better. So yeah, very similar to that scene where it's just like she's just getting made fun of essentially. Like her secret identity is like this single cat lady who has like 11 cats or whatever, and it's like super mean. It's really really funny. My favorite scene though is when she's chasing that guy who planted the bomb, or like who put the bomb in a backpack or whatever, and chasing him, and then into this like abandoned building, and he eventually falls off this balcony and like gets impaled on some rebar at the end, and she like has a knife and she like drops it and it stabs him, and then she's like, oh no, and then like she pukes on him, and like it's just like it just keeps escalating. You're like, oh man, it's freaking hilarious. There's a lot of really good like comedic moments in this movie that I was not expecting.
Well, another really good character was it was played by Peter. I'm gonna mispronounce this. Serafinowicz, I think.
Oh yeah,
he's the dude from Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. And he's just like he plays like this really terrible like sexist like basically
Italian.
sex crazy Italian guy.
Yeah, he's Italian.
He's Italian, and it's just like it's funny because like he's hitting on Melissa McCarthy, like where there's all these other beautiful women, and he keeps on hitting on Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, he's a chubby chaser.
It's just like he's terrible, like in a good way for like the entire movie. And then at one point, like he starts like talking about it's like it's just a cover, it's just an act. And then like he starts to grab her ass. He's like, I saw that on the Downton Abbey.
Because in the end, you don't know if he's MI6 or if he's Italian, like Secret Service or whatever.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, really cool. But and one of the other interesting aspects about it is that it's her first time in the field, and she's like really good at all the tests when she was, becoming a secret agent, and then just never saw the field for whatever reason.
She was too good at her job as a analyst, I think.
And also, I think she was afraid of how she like felt when she was really good, like on the shooting courses and all that. But then, like when she's trying to solve problems and being undercover, because she's winging everything because the whole plan falls apart, she actually ends up being pretty damn good at it, which is really cool too. And she's also dragging along the other analysts, because she shows up to like unannounced to show support, and like so she's accounting for her ineptitudes. So really cool. They made like a pretty strong, particularly like unexpected weak character into like a really strong character.
She's also dragging Jason Statham along too.
It's true.
That's really horrible.
True.
He almost took the backpack that got bombed. He almost got bombed with that backpack.
True. Yeah, and he's like a MacGruber type, where his reputation is a lot better than reality actually shows. Yeah. So really cool. All right, I think that brings us to number 1, right?
Yeah. What do you got, Jay?
Well, we talked about it earlier. It's MacGruber.
Oh my god, guys! I also have MacGruber at number 1.
I knew it. I love this movie.
Oh my god, 3 times!
I can't stop quoting this movie. We quote this movie so much as a group of friends. It's just so much fun.
I'm more of a 3-wire type of a guy.
What the fuck is this?
You think your shit don't stink? Well, it does. It stinks like shit.
And then he headbutts him. So fucking good.
Guys, I don't know. I can't get enough of this movie. I'll watch it. Whenever it's on, I'll put it on if I'm bored. This is one of those movies I could watch over and over again. And like sometimes, like my dad can't stand this movie, and he's just like, "Why do you like this movie?" I'm like, I don't know. It's just hilarious.
Yeah, my dad hates this movie too.
My girlfriend hates it. Like she just can't stand this type of humor. But like we watched it with her. I think it was me, Corey, Maddie, and her. The 3 of us were cracking up at it, and she's just like, I don't get it. I'm like, I don't know. I don't get why you don't get it.
It's funny because it's such a ridiculous it's a ridiculous premise, and not only that, the acting is also way over the top too. But there's a lot of like really subtle humor stuff, like when he's going to that party and he's walking into the party, and he always carries his stereo with him everywhere he goes. And so the like coat check is like, oh, can I take your coat? And he's like, I'm good. And he's like, your stereo? He's like, nice try, because he's like super protective about it. It's like super subtle humor like that is great. Yeah,
but then when he gets kicked out of the party and he lands on it,
he's
like, my Blaupunk!
They throw the Blaupunk out. They smash it and then throw it out the window. And he's like, my Blaupunk! And then later on, he's like, they broke my Blaupunk. I'm really bummed about it.
And something serious is happening too. Yeah, that's what he's thinking about is his Blaupunk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of really cool, good moments like that. And like Bobby said earlier, Val Kilmer as the villain he's loving playing this role. You can tell, and it's like. And I think that they just had a really good time writing their dialogue together because it's also so ridiculous. And Will Forte's character MacGruber is an idiot, and like the scene where Kunt is basically telling him that he's gonna frame him, and like MacGruber's like, no man, you can't do this, man. You gotta believe me, I didn't do it, and then I'm being framed, and Kunt is like, yeah, I'm framing you.
I'm framing you.
He's like, you suck, and he like gets all mad at him again. It's so funny.
You gotta believe me.
What's funny too is I'm not going to spoil this part, but this backstory behind MacGruber's and Kunt's and MacGruber's dead wife's their whole relationship. It's hilarious.
Oh, that's scene.
And then MacGruber is actually probably the real bad guy in that situation.
Exactly, he's a horrible person. Yeah, man.
That's a phenomenal movie. Like I said, like it's so dumb that it's genius comedy. Like it's such a funny watch. I can't not laugh my ass off throughout like the whole movie.
It's one of those movies that if you describe to somebody, they'll think it's dumb. Like it just sounds stupid and it won't be funny, but it like for whatever reason it just works. And you mentioned earlier the Rotten Tomatoes score or whatever in the 30s. Like that's ridiculous to me. I wonder what the audience score is because
I'm gonna check.
This movie is just really funny. If you go into a movie not expecting like Superbad or 40-Year-Old Virgin, something that's like super clever, you're gonna laugh your ass off because it's just so ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, this is actually crazy. It's a 48% for the critic. It's 35% for the audience.
That's insane.
Unexpected.
We're gonna get a lot of guff for this.
We're gonna get a lot of guff.
I guarantee a lot of those are recent views, and the people are offended, and then they went and downvoted it.
Maybe it's got 120,000, so I don't know.
Yeah, this movie is definitely, I think, it is probably the top SNL movie.
I think.
Yeah, what else gets close?
Well, let's see. There's
you got Wayne's World.
Wayne's World's good.
Coneheads. You got. Wow, I had them all in my head earlier.
Superstar.
Superstar.
Blues Brothers.
Blues Brothers. Mm-hmm. You got. What was the other one with the guy with the? He was in love. He's the lover. God, I forgot, man.
Oh,
ladies.
Ladies.
I
was gonna say Love Guru. Oh my god.
Guru.
We need to do top 5 worst comedies ever.
Love
Guru will be on there.
A lot of bad ones.
I saw that movie in theaters with my girlfriend at the time because I loved Jessica Alba, and that was like the one reason I saw this movie.
No, I was with you guys, and I, like throughout the movie, I'm just like, why is this happening? This is like the worst thing I've ever seen.
So not funny.
But yeah, this definitely is, I think, the top SNL movie.
Oh yeah, I'd agree.
I think that's pretty easy. But yeah, this movie is funny too because it's not like if you look at our list, I think that Spy and Popstar and Deadpool, of course, Disaster Artist are better movies. But for in terms of like laughs per minute,
enjoyment, man.
MacGruber is just it's a show, a movie you can turn your brain off and watch.
Gutbuster,
yeah, hilarious. All right, Bobby, what's your number 1?
Well, for me, I think let's see. Jay had this as his number 5. I think Horrible Bosses is my favorite of all the movies of the last decade for comedies. I just think Jason Sudeikis, Charlie Day, and Jason Bateman are like together. Those three, just I can't not laugh at the things that they do and say together. Just like when they're in like the houses, just like the banter that they have together is so stupid. Like they one of the scenes where they accidentally knock over the thing of cocaine and they're trying to like vacuum it up. It's just like the interactions between them. It's just like it cracks me up. Just watching these guys talk about stupid shit that they shouldn't be talking about while trying to set up murders.
Yeah, they're just like small talk while they're committing crimes.
Like it's nothing.
Crazy. Yeah, exactly.
And then I think Charlie Day like keeps on wanting to come up with like code names and stuff like that, and then accidentally keeps on saying like everybody's names over the airwaves. So if somebody's listening, they're so screwed.
Yeah.
But then you have like the supporting cast. You have Jennifer Aniston, who I think is great in this movie. You got Colin Farrell, who we talked about earlier, plays against type, like this fat, bald cokehead, like who loves kung fu and like things. I think doesn't he have like huge painting of himself in his house, which is just completely awful.
Which is funny because that's a trope where there's guys who are overconfident in themselves in movies and TV show. They are really into like Japanese stuff. Have you noticed that? Remember the guy from Parks and Rec?
Parks and Rec Jam, yeah.
And then Eastbound and Down, he's got a dojo.
Bash
and all that
Bros.
stuff. Yeah, the Bash Bros. Yeah, it's like that's a weird trope that I just noticed.
I never really thought about it, but when you put it like that, that's interesting.
Yeah, really weird.
Let's see. Then you have Kevin Spacey. The thing about Kevin Spacey, he's a terrible person. but he's got so many good movies. I try not to let how he is as a person outside of the movies cloud his actual movies. I think he plays the asshole piece of shit boss so perfectly. He steals the promotion from Jason Bateman's character, gives it to himself, but then says that he's going to take 85% of the salary instead of like the full 100%. Then he like takes his office and like he's just like the most hateable boss you could imagine.
I'm pretty sure he was just playing himself.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very Frank Underwood, and I think
I don't even know if he was acting. You're right. I think it was just him coming in and doing his normal thing. But it's like he's so hateable that it's like he's a perfect villain for this movie. You know, it's like you understand why Jason Bateman wants him dead. You know.
Yeah. One of the funny things too is that like Charlie Day's problem is like so not a problem.
In a way.
Yeah, I don't want to make light of sexual harassment, but like what regular guy would be like, oh, this is horrible having Jennifer Aniston be so into you.
Maybe you. I don't know.
Well, I would argue too that she plays against type because she plays somebody who's interesting. So
got her.
One of the most boring actresses. Obviously, she's pretty. But yeah, not a huge fan of her, but she was very good in this movie. So it's a really good choice. I didn't have it on my list. I'm not really sure why. For whatever reason, I don't feel like it was like super laugh out loud funny like a lot of these other movies were. But it was very enjoyable, and I didn't hate it. So I didn't even dislike it really at all. And the cast is fantastic. And
the cast is what sells it for me, by the way.
Yeah, and on top of that, one of the only comedies who had a decent sequel.
I did enjoy the sequel, just not as much, but it is still a fun sequel.
Yeah, it's not like, there's a lot of comedy sequels out there that are just so bad because the magic was gone. Like Zoolander 2, horrible.
Dumb
movie.
and Dumber 2.
Just too long between the two movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Which actually, I have a couple movies that I have as honorable mention. 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street I had them as my honorable mentions. Again, another comedy that has a decent sequel. So I also have This Is the End. I mentioned that earlier when it was on Jay's list. And then this was a movie, my last honorable mention was a movie that I felt was more of an action movie. And I felt, I didn't want to put Deadpool and this on the list, but I have Kingsman.
Oh, yeah.
I thought Kingsman was a surprise hit that was actually very funny. But again, I think it leans more on its action angle. So I decided to just leave it off the list. But also a very good movie for anybody who hasn't seen it, and not a good comedy sequel. It breaks the trend.
We'll see how the prequel goes.
Yeah, right.
That looks very good, actually. If we ever get to see it. But that's all I have for my honorable mentions. Does anybody have anything else?
Let's see. 21 and 22 Jump Street. I definitely toyed with the idea of putting at least one of them in there.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't justify it over the ones that I had on here. I really liked Game Night. I thought that was a really interesting story.
Night was funny.
Yeah. I like that too.
Just outside, of that top 5.
Same.
What We Do in the Shadows. That, like Jay was talking about, just such a fun movie. Such good dry humor.
That's on my to-do list.
I'm hoping they eventually come out with a sequel. I think they were talking about it'd be called We're Wolves.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So it's just so stupid. Another couple ones I was thinking about is We're the Millers and then Hot Tub Time Machine. Two very fun watches, but again, just not top 5 worthy, I'd say.
Yeah. Hot Tub Time Machine was. I remember when I heard about the concept and I was like, that's so stupid, and I don't like. What's his face? John Cusack as an actor.
We know.
But our listener doesn't. So
our one listener.
You've already badmouthed him a couple times, I think. So
did I?
If they actually listen all the way through, they would know.
Well, we can do top 5 worst John Cusack movies, which is probably Bobby's top 5 best John Cusack movies.
On Air's number 1.
Yeah, but it's a really funny concept and it ended up really working, and I'm not gonna lie, I forgot about that movie. So if I would have remembered, it may have been number 6 or number 5 on my list. So
that's funny because I know how much you hate John Cusack, but you tell me that you actually really like that movie. That's one of the few times I've seen you really like a movie with an actor that you hate. It's so rare for you.
Yeah, like there's nothing with Jai Courtney in that I like. Just
Jack Reacher.
But he has 2 lines, so
and he gets killed. So.
which is great.
Jay.
Which is great.
Yeah, that's only helping Kevin's cause.
Yeah.
right,
My
Jay.
honorable mentions. Obviously, 21 and 22 Jump Street have to be on there, like you guys did. It's great, both great movies. Deadpool 2 and Deadpool were on my honorable mention. I also had one that was kind of hard to consider a comedy, but it was Nice Guys.
Yeah.
It was on there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I kind of put that more as like a mystery type movie or like a
that's why I didn't.
drama.
It would have made if it. I mean, I almost wanted to put it in my top 5, but I just because of that reason it couldn't go on my list.
It might have been my number 1 because I love the hell out of that movie. Like that might have been my number 1 if I considered it.
That and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I mean, the writing in those movies is just amazing, and then the chemistry between all the actors, it's
Well, it's funny how Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Nice Guys, and Iron Man 3 are all very similar type movies.
Black.
And it's all Shane Black. So
Shane
he
Black.
loves writing that type. And
Yeah,
Nice Guys was really good. And Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling's characters, great chemistry together. Like, it's so good. And that was a sleeper for me because I heard it got good reviews, didn't see it in theaters, watched it later on. I guess we couldn't get a group together to see it. And I was bummed that I didn't get to see it in theaters. That's how good it was. So, yeah, great choice.
I was watching a movie the other day, and it was Shane Black had written it. I think it was
Predator.
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon.
Oh, yeah.
Lethal Weapon. Yeah.
He was a writer on Predator also, and was in it. He's one of the
was
soldiers. Yeah, he's one of the soldiers.
Yeah, I thought he looked.
Is that Predators?
No,
Predator,
the original.
First
The Predator, which was the new one, he wrote. Pretty sure by himself. There might have been some co-writers, but horrible. Fucking horrible. Shane Black's worst movie.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, and I love Shane Black. I love his. He's very like Tarantino-like in his dialogue.
A lot of dialogue,
and it's quippy, but it's more realistic, I think. So yeah, any others you wanted to mention, Jay?
No, that's about it. I'm sure I'll think of something else later, but
well, we may do a sequel. We may do a comedy sequel to top 5 comedy movies.
Yeah, for a different decade, maybe.
Different decade.
Different decade.
What's funny about this to me is, we've always talked about like how like there aren't a lot of good comedies anymore. Like looking at this list, there's actually a decent amount. It's just like outside of like, let's say like 15 movies, I don't think there's anything.
Well,
so it's like
we don't really want to get into it now, but when we do our next list, which is going to be from 2000 to 2009, you're going to see much
stronger,
higher quantity, higher quality in terms of comedies, like instant classics. So you'll be able to tell the difference in terms of this list and that list. But there wasn't as few as I expected. So that's a good sign. So there is that kind of, and we're probably getting deep into the weeds here. But there is that sense that in this climate today that you can't really be funny because everything's offensive and nobody wants to be offensive anymore. So I think that shows in kind of the quality of comedies in theaters nowadays.
It's very muted down. It's mild, very mild, muted down comedy.
Yeah.
Who was saying? Who's the director of the Hangover movies? He was talking about that a few months back. How it's just like he doesn't even want to, because I think he directed Joker.
Yeah.
And he was saying that he just doesn't want to do comedies anymore, just because there's so much you can't say and do in those movies now.
Right.
Just because of how everybody's, I don't want to say necessarily sensitive, but aware of a lot more things than they used to be.
Like even a number of comedians don't want to do stand-up anymore. I mean, like I think Jerry Seinfeld's one of them.
He went to colleges.
He went to colleges now because everyone's just so like. I mean, it's not the fact that they're actually offended; they just want to be relevant, so they have to speak out against something. So they just look for every little tiny thing to nitpick.
Yeah, could be the case. So with that being said, if we've offended anybody, probably everybody, Freudian slip. If we've offended everybody, smash that like button. If we've offended nobody, smash that like button. And keep an eye out for upcoming news show. We're calling it Nerd Fight, NRD Fight, where we're going to do a debate. There'll be one judge, two competitors. Most points wins. That'll most likely be coming early next week. So keep an eye out for that in the future. And then, like we talked about earlier, we'll be doing another top 5 list of the early millennium. So keep an eye out for that as well. Like, comment, and subscribe. Leave comments. And if you want to yell at us for how bad our lists are, definitely do it. If you agree, comment as well. And until next time,
ride that wave.
Wah! You're pitted.
And shred that gnar. We'll see you next time.
you on the flip side.
Bye.
Adios.